I still, like, to this day, like, I'm on a dog walk or something, like, man, I'm so glad that I don't have that property anymore. I don't really care about the $100,000. Not that I'm swimming in money. It's a lot of money, and it still stings, but that's how bad that property was, that I'm comfortable with saying out loud that I lost over $100,000. It's better than having that property in my hands.
Welcome to the RealPropPro podcast, where strategy, innovation, and wealth converge to redefine real estate investing.
Hello, and welcome to the RPP podcast. I'm your host, Ian Dietler, real estate investor based in Sacramento, California. This show is where we talk about real estate strategies with real people who are actually doing the work. At RealPropPro, we train new and growing investors in fix and flips, rentals, tax deed and tax lien investing, creative financing, and so much more. Check out some of our upcoming trainings at RealPropPro.com. Today's guest is Nick Miller, a real estate investor and real estate marketer who has found creative ways to mix in investing, income, and adventure. Through his company, Miller Photo, he has been helping agents and investors showcase properties since 2015. But behind the lens, Nick has also built a portfolio that includes duplexes, out-of-state rentals, fix and flips, a sixplex in Cleveland, land in Tahoe, and Airbnb experiences. All of this while living on his own terms. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get right into it. Nick, can you talk a little bit about where you're from and where you were raised?
Born in San Jose, moved to Rockland, California when I was 1 year old, and grew up there, and had a brief year or two in Florida. I kind of followed my dad's career, and then moved back to Carmichael. Fourth grade, grew up there. Kind of went to high school. That's how you and I know each other, and kind of got reacquainted in the real estate investing world years later. But in college, I jumped around from Sierra up in Truckee, and then Santa Barbara and Chico, and I never finished, but I'm kind of happy I didn't finish. I decided to start a photography business instead, and I got to a point where I didn't really want to waste my parents' money or my time in getting a degree in something I wasn't going to use. So looking back, maybe I'm like, maybe I should have got a business degree. But I think all in all, I learned better from doing and making mistakes and just learning from other people. Right about that time when I did drop out of college, I say drop out, but it was junior college, so I don't even know if you can drop out of junior college. YouTube was becoming like really popular. It was around 2008. So I just started searching things in YouTube and realizing like, oh wow, there's some legitimate information here. It's not, and it's in a less formal platform than call it like reading books and taking tests and stuff. And that's how my brain learns better. And so yeah, from there I just started teaching myself photography techniques and worked 16 hours a day at two different hotel jobs to make as much money as I can, pay off a bunch of credit card debt, and then save up thousands of dollars to buy my first round of photography equipment, and just to see what would happen. And from there I did a couple weddings for free. I did pet portraits. I did my cousin and his friends were all skateboarding down in Venice Beach where we lived. So I was kind of just shooting anything I could to learn, and then see what would come out and see what wouldn't. Luckily, it was around 2010 when I bought my first camera, so it was in the digital age, so I could mess up as much as I wanted to without wasting a bunch of money on film. And then I kind of just wanted to do everything as far as photography, but then I found my niche when my cousin, who was a realtor, he still is a realtor, Kevin McDonald, he asked me to photograph a listing for him. And so I went in there with the fisheye lens and the making the panoramas like I had done with landscape and skateboarding, and the photos were awful, but they were usable. But luckily, he for my first couple years, he was patient enough to give me constructive feedback and deal with a lot of crappy photos. Obviously, they're better photos than he could have done with his phone at the time, but um, yeah. So I got better and better with him, and then he would refer me out, and then it just the business kind of snowballed to I realized, oh, I could do more than one shoot a day. And then, so if I was making a couple $100 on one shoot, I'm like, okay, maybe I could do two shoots. And then I did four shoots one day. I'm like, oh, wow, this could be big. And so, I realized too that I liked the niche of real estate photography because there was no humans involved and there was no like babies crying and because I had done family portraits before and weddings. There's no drunk groomsmen like making a scene. It's a lot less variables to deal with, unpredictable variables to deal with in real estate photography. And at this, like simultaneously becoming interested in real estate altogether. So I think like the investing and real estate photography kind of started growing at the same time, and I was able to take the knowledge of real estate and apply it to my photography. Like, what do I need to capture? What do I need to photograph to showcase the property? As opposed to a lot of other photographers that were just taking pretty pictures. They would come from the landscape world or more artsy world, and just the pictures were great, but they're not like proper real estate photos that the realtor wants to market the property. And so that's where I think I stood out, and people ended up choosing me over my competitors, is my ability to do that. But yeah, that's I quit my day job 10 years ago next month. So in May of 2015, I was a truck driver for Alhambra, just delivering those big water jugs. So I was able to quit that, and then my goal was to make a little more that I was making there the first year, and then I ended up doubling that, which was awesome. And so I think I knew right there I made the right choice. Another reason why I liked real estate is you would get residual business. So as opposed to a wedding or a lot of other forms of photography, that's like you get a customer and you get one job, as opposed to real estate. With a realtor likes you, they're going to call you every single listing, whether they shoot or whether they list 2 houses a year or 50. So that was really cool. I felt like, oh, I don't have to do as much prospecting once you get that client base, and then the referrals again keep snowballing, and you could kind of pick and choose who you want to work with, and who you don't. So back to my day job as a truck driver. My wife had bought a house. Like I say, we bought a house, but she had bought a house because she actually had a good steady job and income. And so we lived in that house, and then I used my work status at the truck driving job to get qualified for a loan for a second home. And so basically right after I closed escrow, because I had been at the truck driving job for almost 2 years, right after I closed escrow on that property, I quit. Because so I used the steady, because if I would have quit before and then started my own business, the banks wouldn't like that. And they're like, well, how do we know you're going to make enough money? You need like a track record. So I used that track record, even though it was very modest. I think I pulled in a whopping $37,000 a year at the truck driving job, but that was enough to buy a $90,000 house in Oak Park, California. It's like, for those of you who don't know the area, it's an South Sacramento kind of up and coming, and very affordable back then. And so I was able to close escrow on that and then quit the day job, and then just took it from there.
So was that your first rental, and was that in 2015 when you purchased that one?
Yeah, so that was the first rental. We still lived in our primary in Fair Oaks. And then from there, we were getting kind of bored out in Fair Oaks. We were in our late 20s or mid late 20s at the time. So and our friends in Carmichael were getting kind of bored in their neighborhood. It was just too suburban and too, not much to do. We wanted to be closer to downtown Sacramento and Midtown, all the excitement. They sold their house in Carmichael. We sold our house in Fair Oaks. We were thinking about renting it out at the time, but we needed to pay off the weddings. We decided to sell. So each party, my wife and I, and then our friends, both sold our houses. Then we took that money and we bought a duplex near Sacramento City College. So it's 5-10 minutes south of downtown. And it was there. We definitely downsized. We both went from 3 2s to 1 1 on each side, about 700 square feet. But our mortgage was like $900 on each. So that was really cool. And it was cool to downsize. And I think your first home, you accumulate a bunch of crap. Like everyone in your family gives you like, oh, you need a bunch of tool like that you'll never use. And just kind of, I feel like a lot of people just dump their excess stuff on you thinking they're going to help you out, but you ended up with way more stuff that you don't need. And so it was cool downsizing and just living a more modest life with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. And we did that for almost 4 years. Our friends even had their first kid on the other side, and we made it work, and we made it cute. We made it, it's not that great of an area, but again, you get what you pay for. And we were able to save a lot of money by only having, minimal expenses. So, 4 years later, we each move out. Like now I'm in the Natomas area, back in a 3 2, like a normal house, and they're in West Roseville, but we still own the duplex, and we've been renting it out ever since. I think we moved out in 2020. We moved out, so almost 5 years now. And over that course of time, we've bought an out of state in Kansas City, Missouri. We bought that house for $17,000. Sold it for 20. Didn't make a huge profit there, but it's just kind of dipping our toes into different markets and trying to diversify, just trying to creative ways in the real estate investing world. And we did a single family in Akron, Ohio, which is a suburb like south of Cleveland. That did pretty well. Did about like 10% over 4 years. We bought it for $60,000. It was a 5 bedroom, 2 bath house. Sold it. I think we sold it for 80. But we made a steady income as far as like cash flow, rental cash flow. So those, like, all in all, those ventures went fairly well, like break even, or like the Akron one made some decent money. But what I realized is it's real estate investing is not super passive. I think I got really lucky with the Oak Park house. The first rental just had perfect tenants, never asked for anything, paid the rent on time, and just for 4 years straight, just no problems. And I hit the jackpot with them. So I kind of like sets your expectations high for other properties and maybe clouds your judgment a little bit. But I wanted to, eventually I had 3 mortgages out personally. So I wanted to go commercial, which is 5 units or above. And because they qualify that more on the income of the property, not your personal income. So I was looking around the whole country, and I found, I was looking in Arkansas and stuff, and then I would, scroll through the pictures and see tornado shelters, and like, oh, maybe that's not the best idea, even though the properties were like very affordable. So I kind of had my filter set on an 8% cap rate and 5 units or above, and I think like a maximum price of $300,000 because I had 60 grand saved up. So I found this property in East Cleveland, which is a pretty bad area of Cleveland, but the return on investment was going to be 20%. So I put that 60 grand down on a 6-unit apartment building that was at the time fully occupied, and then I got a referral from the listing agent for a good property manager, and got the insurance all squared away, and I found a loan. The loan was like 8%, so it was a lot back then. Now it seems like a good deal, but back then mortgages were going sub 3. So, but whatever, it's still like it penciled out. And my wife, who's in finance and a lot smarter than me, like did the numbers and approved. And so, yeah, put 60 grand down when we closed. And for like the first 6 months, it did well. It made like $1,000 a month, so it was returning 20%. Everything was hunky dory, and then COVID started getting worse. So the property management quality started to suffer and started to be compromised because the main guy, Sam, he would have these employees that would just be out sick for COVID, or he would lose people, not die, but they would quit or whatever. So um slowly but surely, it just like the deposits started getting lower and lower and then to the point where I'm like, okay, now the deposits aren't even covering the mortgage, which was $1,600 or $1,800 a month. So then I started getting a little worried, and then, what's going on, and then from there it started getting worse and worse. People would stop paying rent, and then the property manager was outsourcing the evictions. So we evict and then turn over the unit and then get a new tenant in the vacant unit. And that whole process, which was fairly quick because it was Ohio. It's not like California where like tenants have more rights, but so we were able to get them out of there quick, but it was still costly. It was still like $5,000. So, I kept trying, I went with another property manager, and, that didn't help. I flew out there and kind of, I think like my boots on the ground kind of helped and direct things, but just the area would keep getting worse and worse. It was on this street, so it was a bad neighborhood to begin with, but it was a street that like buildings kept getting abandoned, like one after the other, to the point where we're the only one of the only ones that is actually occupied. And then meanwhile, the city of East Cleveland was getting more and more corrupt. There's like the mayor was getting indicted, and the police officers were getting arrested, for fraudulent stuff. It was just messy. It was super. There was a couple shootings at the property. Like one bullet went through the door, and broke glass, and then the other bullets went into a transformer, and then the power was out on the building. And it was a 100-year-old building, so like the sewer would not erupt, but like back up and fill the basement. And there's tenants being prostitutes out of a unit. So fast forward, and the main reason I kind of was like funneling into this is because real estate investing can be like super cool, but I feel like a lot of people on social media don't. It's all about like how easy it is and stuff, and a lot of people don't talk about the failures. And I feel like you could learn a lot more from the failures. And I would like to, like when you asked me to do this podcast, I wanted to share this because I want people to learn the gnarly stuff and learn from my mistakes. So, um,
Yeah, so kind of talk about that. What are some of the main things that you took away from it? Like if you were able to start all over, with the vision you have now, what would you have done differently? Where could you have avoided some of these problems?
I think just pump the brakes a little bit on. It was 2021. I was making great money, and I just wanted to put that to use right away. I wanted to make an instant return instead of just like putting it away and setting myself up with the 401k and putting it as something conservative. We already had property, so I could have just let that simmer and let the more conservative cash flow come in instead of leverage like high. Let's do higher returns. And I was, when you're like eating a plate of a delicious food and you're like, man, I'm getting kind of full. I should probably stop. But then you just keep eating and then you end up feeling way too full. But if you would have just stopped and just let it settle, then you're like, okay, I'm good. I think that's what I did with properties. And I feel like that $60,000 that I had saved up was like burning a hole through my pocket, and I should have just put it in something more conservative, and then it's still liquid, but and then just thought about it. But I think this example is like anything is the Murphy's Law. Anything that can happen will happen. So I I don't feel stupid like we made a bunch of mistakes. Again, my super smart wealth advisor wife like checked out all the numbers, and everything did check out, but we didn't count on as much evictions. We didn't count on the property management company completely dropping the ball. And it's not like if you own property here, you could, oh, the property management company sucks, I'll just go over there and take care of it myself. No, it's a $700 flight and 8 hour, and you just gotta, it's a 3-day thing just to, and I went out there once, but you can't do that. It just it cuts into your profit margins. So going back through the research we did call a property management company that we were using for the Akron property, and they were like, yeah, we don't work in that area. So that should have been like a first red flag. And we thought like, oh, it's probably because they're based in Akron. But like, no, you just ask questions, poke people, like, be annoying. I feel like you don't be afraid to be annoying and ask like, well, why don't you work there? And just get more information than you need. So the property management company that was referred to me, cool, they work in that area, great. But like, still, I maybe should have called a couple more, and I would have found out that no other property management company works in that zip code. Because when I was trying to find a new property management company after I fired that one years later, I did find that out, that no one worked in that area. And then I started asking why. I'm like, oh, it's too much crime. Area is notorious for people not paying rent and high turnovers, and it just doesn't make sense for us. And our vendors don't feel safe working there because their vans get robbed when they're in, working on the plumbing. So, and then another thing is property tax and insurance. So when you get your mortgage quote, you're like, great, that's going to stay like that forever. And that's not the case. So I got the number $1,800 a month. Cool. It grosses $3,500 a month. Sweet. So after expenses and utilities and everything, it'll cash flow $1,000 a month. Great. But I didn't account for insurance going up every year. So as the zip code gets worse and worse, and the crime rates go up, and blah, 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 and the vacancy rates go up, insurance goes up as well. At the same time, property tax goes up. So Ohio, one of the reasons why we did choose Ohio to invest in is because of the low property tax. I think it's like a 1.5%. So it's comparable to California, but it's not like Texas where it's over 2%, or Illinois had some really cheap properties too, but it's almost 3%. But there's an additional property tax per zip code, just like if you go to Chipotle in this county or Chipotle in this, like the little tax is different. So we didn't know that, or we didn't even think to research that. Property tax ended up going up to like over 3%, maybe close to 4%. So the mortgage ended up going from $1,800 to $2,000 a month to $2,200 a month, and then shot up to $4,400 a month. And people ask me, was it a adjustable rate? No, absolutely not. It wasn't. It was a fixed rate. But what happened was the escrow account got so low because of all the taxes and insurance that they had to raise it. They had to like double it almost to get that escrow account filled back up. So I called the bank, obviously, and like, this can't work. And of course, it was auto withdrawing my account. So I see the $4,400 charge. Like, this is not right. So we negotiated it down to like $3,300, but still at that point, the properties, even with increased rents, the property is grossing $4,000 a month. So after utilities and everything, it's just breaking even. that's when we're like, okay, we need to sell. I can't like this is not even so. Other than the financial aspect, it was like I was losing sleep. I was stressing. There's nothing in my life that was stressful except that. So you'd wake up stressing about it. You would dream about it. You would go to bed just fretting about it. So that's not a healthy way to live. So made the decision to sell it. Um, I called several brokers. No one would touch it. Called several realtors. No one would return my call. And I left out that it was East Cleveland because I didn't want to spook people. But you you realize too, and we realized this like the first time we went out there, the professionalism in that state. And I can't speak for everywhere, but from our experience, the professionalism in that state was way less than California. I feel like if you call a realtor in California, they don't answer, they'll call you 30 seconds later. Like people in from our experience, they're hungry. They want to make money, but that wasn't the case in Ohio. Anyways, so I just called the guy that I bought it from, who was the listing agent too, and like, hey, can you list this property? All these things are happening. Great. List it, and it didn't. No action on it for 6 months. We did price reductions where it went from 300 grand to 275 or 285, 275, 260, and then yeah, and nothing. So after 6 months, our listing agreement was expired. So I just decided to like start. I was gonna forfeit it to the bank, but I was waffling whether to do it because again, it was just I was at the point where like I didn't care about losing my $60,000 investment and whatever I had put into it. And I listed on Facebook Marketplace as like a last resort and get bombarded with wholesalers and fast forward, I finally end up selling it a year later, like 13 months later after making the initial decision to sell it. Meanwhile, having to pay the mortgage, making a little bit of rent, but just nowhere near even breaking even. And then one thing after the other, like the roof, putting so much work into the roof just because it snows in Cleveland and people were getting I was taking care of the tenants, as best as I could because they would get water leaking in their units and this and that. So I like want to do right by being a landlord. And so I came out of pocket a lot, just like making those repairs and the sewer would back up and this and that. So anyways, and we could get more into specifics of that, but bought it for 260 in 2021 and ended up selling it for 180. Yeah, so I had to come out of pocket like $17,000 at the close of escrow because of taxes. So I lost like over $100,000 on that deal, and I still like to this day, like I'm on a dog walk or something. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I don't have that property anymore. I don't really care about the $100,000. Not that I'm swimming in money. It's a lot of money, and it still stings, but that's how bad that property was. That I'm comfortable with saying out loud that I lost over $100,000 cumulatively over 3 years. But it's better than having that property in my hands.
Yeah, you just had this stress like lifted off your shoulders all of a sudden just to get this thing out of your portfolio, basically, it sounds like.
Yeah. So and it's yeah, I think about it every day, just not having it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to kind of relieve that stress of having that thing. Very sorry about the loss, but can you talk about some wins? I know that you guys do some other more like creative investing. Can you talk about some of those different channels that you and your wife invest in that are more fun, adventurous, and like, hopefully
Yeah.
profitable?
not super depressing, like losing six figures on a super.
No, I'm with you though. I think it's great. I think it's great for people to see the real side of this industry because it isn't all just wins and tons of money and like you said, hands off, easy cash flow investing. That's not the full picture. So I think it is super important that you came on the show today to really talk about this East Cleveland deal and really make people aware of some of the things to avoid and try to help people by sharing your mistakes so that they can learn not to do them.
Yeah,
But like I said, let's discuss some of these other different ways that you guys invest because after talking with you in some of these real estate meetups, I saw that you and your wife are just doing some like really kind of out of the box stuff that I think is great. So can you share some of those different strategies that you guys are implementing?
yeah, absolutely. I guess one thing to close out the depressing part is with real estate, just be careful because it could end up costing way more than your initial investment. So if I would have taken that $60,000 and put it in the stock market, it could easily go to zero. Not easily, but there's a possibility it could go to zero. I'm out 60 grand. That sucks. But with real estate, especially if you leverage and you get out a mortgage and everything, that $60,000 potential loss can turn into, it could keep taking it, like bam, the HVAC's out, bam, the roof's out, the foundation, like, so it could keep, the stock market is not going to do that, or a lot of passive real estate investments is not going to do that. But I would, yeah, that's why you need to just like be extra careful and ask way more questions. And yeah, just, and I didn't know, that's like I think the biggest takeaway that I learned from this deal is like real estate you could potentially make a lot more, but you could also lose a lot more. So, but yeah, on a happier note, um, around 2021, that we decided we wanted to take like a little sabbatical. So we decided let's travel for 3 months. And my business and real estate photography and everything, that's usually pretty slow in December, January, and February. So we decided, okay, let's do those months. Um, so we decided to go to Sri Lanka, a little island country off the coast of India. So we did a month there. But so we knew we were going to be gone for 3 months. We got the dog sitter taken care of, but we wanted to minimize our expenses while traveling. So we were able to we list our house on Airbnb. So obviously I took the pictures and the marketing material and then put it up, and we were able to get a long-term renter, or sorry, a long-term guest, short-term renter. So for 60 days, we put up for 60-day minimum. And we got this family that they were moving from North Carolina to California, and they didn't want to sign a year lease for a rental but while they were looking for a house to buy. So there's, again, something I never really would have thought of. Instead of moving all your stuff to California and put it in storage and signing a year lease and then starting or buying a house sight unseen, it was way less stressful for them just to go on Airbnb. Hey, is there a house that our family of four could fit in and live in? While we find a house. Yes. So that was our house. And so it's like this market that I never even knew existed. So they rented our house for 2 months. While we were gone, we rented it out for way more than the mortgage because it was fully furnished. So while we were gone, we didn't have to pay the mortgage. The additional month that we were gone, we had a couple other Airbnb guests, and that was good. And we got all of our expenses covered. So I was pretty proud of that, just because it's, you're spending all this money on traveling the world, and you don't want to have to pay your mortgage or utility bill. So all that was covered.
You guys also do some glamping sites, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So we bought back to the Oak Park property that I bought in 2015. That has more than tripled in value. While the 2021, 2022 mortgage rates were super low, and maybe that we'll never see again. But I refinanced that property, ended up getting a lower rate, so like sub 3% on that property, and then I pulled out $100,000 out of it because that's how much it appreciated, and we bought 3.5 acres up near right adjacent to Tahoe National Forest off the Blue Canyon exit. So it had already been graded. It has a well, no septic or anything or electricity, but we were kind of getting into the like off-grid Airbnb, off-grid glamping, so glamorous camping. So we wanted to do that, and we bought the property, did a bunch of work, like grinded a bunch of trees and made a bunch of wood chips everywhere. We bought 2 porta potties on a trailer and wheeled those up there and set it up. And then we bought a big canvas tent with a little mini fireplace and a nice queen size bed, and just made it super cute. Well, I could send you some pictures too, but and then we rented that out on Airbnb, and that was going for like $175 a night, and people loved it. And I think people just wanted that like remote experience, and it's still trendy, but it was like definitely extra trendy back then. I found a local guy up there that would service it every time. He would kind of do the turnover, change the sheets and stuff. Real nice guy, Jose. So yeah, it ended up being pretty fun. It was profitable, and now the weather's kind of unpredictable, so we've shifted from having the canvas tent. So now I just rent out the dirt, which is pretty cool. Just like it's $50 a night. I think I'm gonna raise it to like 75, but people just pull their trailers or their own tents on it and just camp. When all the other campgrounds around the real campgrounds are fully booked and everything, it's kind of cool that they could just go to our site, and we have a great view, and it's super pretty up there, and it's not super high up. It's about 5,000 feet, so it's not too high up where it gets really cold. Yeah, but it's been pretty fun to have that and just learn that like if I just like saying like geez, you're renting out the dirt. It's kind of cool, and there's less variables that you have to deal with a traditional rental, like toilets and I don't know, roofs and stuff like that I've experienced with other properties.
Now, have you had a chance to stay on the site yourself and kind of camp out there? You, your wife, or some.
Mhm. Yeah, we do. Definitely had some friends up there. We did a whole Friendsgiving up there, just brought tables and decorations and kind of heated everything up over the fire, and it was really enjoyable, and it still is. I was just up there on Saturday, a couple of days ago, and just cleaning it up and doing some burning, and it's really cool. Just to have that. Very peaceful, but now I think my wife and we want like new experiences. So Northern California is just overwhelming with how many cool places there are to explore, and we have a little Jeep Wrangler and go off-road camping. So um kind of like want to explore new places all the time. So that's one takeaway from that property too, is I don't think I'll ever be the person that like wants a cabin, because then you're just obligated to go to that one spot over and over again, as opposed to like exploring new areas. Um, as you mentioned before, like the whole adventure part of our lives, I think we're always checking off different boxes of locations and cool lakes, alpine lakes, and cool mountains to climb and places to go. So it's yeah, definitely like higher dopamine rushes when you're just like looking at new places.
Yeah, you guys are always out doing awesome stuff. I love it. I love the active and outdoor adventurous lifestyle. My wife and I would try to get out and hike as much as we can, but there's only so much time, and only still got to work during the week, and then we can try to escape on weekends and stuff like that. And we have road trips and stuff planned, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk a little bit about where you see your investment strategy going? Like, what's the next 5 years look like for you, or what would you like it to look like? Is maybe a better question.
I think just being a little bit more conservative, or sorry, a lot more conservative. Listening to more like Dave Ramsey these days, and the younger me was just like, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about, because he's all about buying stuff in cash, and it's like that's not attainable for normal people. You have to leverage everything, and now I kind of get it, like what he's trying to say. He's trying to save people from doing what I did and over leveraging themselves and getting themselves into trouble. That being said, it's not very possible for someone, especially in California, to save up, you know, 400 grand minimum to buy their first property. That's just not realistic. But right now we're selling the duplex that I talked about earlier that our friends and us lived in, and we've rented out for the last 5 years. Like, we're selling that now. So we're kind of downsizing our rental portfolio. We were up to 9 doors. So now that I've gotten rid of the sixplex, and that was a huge loss, but now we're able to take that loss, and it goes against our gain. So we're able to sell the duplex, and that's appreciated. The money, say we'll make $100,000, just to make math easy, but out of the duplex, we'll take that out, and instead of getting taxed on that $100,000, we won't get taxed on it because we lost $100,000 over here. So there is a silver lining from losing money on investing. But between that and our partners having 3 kids, and just like we don't really want to be, it's just a good time to exit that property, um, just for those reasons I just stated. And then I think from there, just like now my wife is a wealth advisor, so finding kind of other ways to alternative ways to where to put our money. And she's working a lot with Megan, my wife. She's working a lot with 1031 exchanges, and helping people take money out of their properties and putting it into what are called Delaware statutory trusts. And so you could kind of, instead of rolling the profits into another property, you roll it into this trust, which is, these big buckets of money that they invest in bigger commercial projects, and it's completely hands off. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but they have a very good track record on, 8, 9, 10, 12%, and you get dividends too. But that is completely hands off. Like, you don't have to manage anything. Your money, you're just you're a silent investor. So that sounds a little more appealing after being a landlord and having the second job of taking care of everything. That sounds a little more appealing, just to let your money work, and I could focus on my business and what I'm really good at, like, and producing money, producing income. I think, as Dave Ramsey says, your income is your biggest wealth building tool. I think the younger me thought, like, oh, just leverage, invest, and that's how you make money. But I think if you double down on what you're good at, and focus on one thing, you can't chase multiple rabbits. Like, the fox who chases 2 rabbits catches no rabbits. So I've kind of, like, with my business coach, I've kind of decided on what I want to focus on, and having pretty bad ADD, it helps to, like, eliminate the distractions. So yeah, so that's where simplify, like, that's like our word of the year, a word of last year too. It was just like make things simple, make things less distracting, and that goes for everything. That goes how we plan our recreation, and then also how we are planning our investment strategies. And just like, instead of a bunch of things, we need to a bunch of spinning plates. Like, just, okay, let's, even if the return's slightly lower, let's simmer down and simplify.
So it sounds like you're doing less active real estate investing, trying to get
Mm.
a little bit more into some of the safer, more hands-off bets like a DST, uh, and also trying to really focus in on your photography business. Is that correct?
I still would like to get back into it. I feel like I need a little timeout. Um, I still photograph a lot of apartment buildings, and I meet these investors. Some are young, some are like super old, and they're, these $12 million 300 unit apartment complexes, and it's really cool. Like, I still love the real estate investing world. I love how it's a lot. It's fairly modest. Like, you'll meet these property owners, and they're just these old dudes that pull up in their Toyota Camrys, and they're like, "You're worth $20 million." What? Um, and I just like, yeah, and going to meetings, like with you, and just learning a lot of new things. I still love the world, but yeah, I'm just kind of just taking a little breather. Um, it's also like made I'm more, as I get older, I'm definitely more weary of shiny objects. Like, a lot of people in the last year or two have been super in the ADU space, and like, oh, you have an extra piece of land on your rental property, like, put an ADU in it and finance that, and that's kind of where I was a year and a half ago. I'm like, I want to take the rentals that we have and put ADUs on them just to get extra units, and now I'm like, that sounds risky. I don't want more debt.
It was like more work and more tenants and more headaches.
Exactly. And if I didn't have the photo business, I think I would be more inclined to do that, if that was, my job. But I'm not built to work two jobs. And real estate investing is a second job.
Absolutely. I love that you are aware of your strengths and weaknesses. That's a very very important thing to understand. Okay, well, we've gotten to the point. Every week we do a free book giveaway. And so for our listeners, we have a couple books here that we give away. Do any of these stand out to you, Nick?
Scoot it over a little bit. Well, that one thing's great.
Yeah, I think I
Uh,
heard you talking about that one already.
that's kind of what
How
helped
about the
me.
E-Myth?
I haven't
Have
read
you
that
read the
one.
Have you read the E-Myth?
Uh-uh.
That's a great one, especially for businesses. That one's more geared towards businesses. So yeah, for listeners, we have a couple books to give away. All you have to do is like this episode and add a comment as to which book you'd like. And 5 days after the air date, we'll pick one lucky winner and send them a free book. So, with that being said, I just wanted to say thank you, Nick, for taking the time to come on here and kind of talk about some of the things that you've been through on your journey on real estate investing and the challenges that you faced, and basically how you would do things differently in the future. So, Nick's story shows us that real estate isn't a one size fits all, whether it's house hacking, Airbnb in your own home, or renting out forest lands. You can still design a life that's flexible and fulfilling to you and gives the things that you want. The key is to start, stay curious, and build with intention. Real estate is the tool. You get to define what success looks like. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks again, Nick.
Thanks, Dan.